Hello everyone, this week's Parsha is Parsha Pekudei. It's the end of Sefer Shemot, and I just want to share some loose ideas about the Mishkan. And here we go. This is based on our Bernstein, and we'll stray on to other topics quickly. So we see, as we said, this is the end of Sefer Shemot, and quite frankly, for the past 4 weeks, we've been dealing with the Mishkan. We started out with Parshat Truma, and then Tetzaveh, and then of course Kitisa, which still does deal with the Mishkan, and then we leap back into Vayakel and Pekudei. That's 5 weeks, 5 parshas that discuss the Mishkan, and this is actually draws on a lot of commentary, as you can imagine. And one of the things that Rav Bernstein mentions is the fact that the Torah spends so much time talking about this really shows a certain degree of love and chavivut for the Mishkan. And we've seen this before. After all, in Parshat Naso, right, the longest parsha in the Torah, there towards the end we get a slew of each shevet bringing a specific korban, and truth is, each shevet brings the exact same korban, and yet the Torah goes on at length, just fulfilling speaking out the details every single time. And that, why do we need to do that? Why don't you just give the first shevet and then just say, and all these other shvatim, they did exactly what that first shevet did. And so the lesson there was the fact that no. God wanted to show the fact that each one went out of his way, like each nasi of his shevet went out of his way to bring a korban, and therefore the way God shows his love and respect for that is by speaking it out. Because often, when we really love someone, when we don't love somebody, and they start speaking and they start rambling and they say over the exact same thing, we're like, okay, hush up. Like, you've said this before, you mentioned this last week, I don't want to hear about it again. However, you notice that often with married couples, it's really beautiful is sometimes for Shabbat, I've gone over to people's houses and, the husband says over a story, and I was like, wow, it's a really nice story. And then a couple months later, I'll go over and he tells over the same story. Now, after I think the second, maybe third time I heard this individual say this story, I obviously realized that his wife wasn't interrupting him and telling him to be quiet. And I realized, I was like, she must have heard this story hundreds of times already, because he clearly really likes the story and relates to it a lot. And yet the way she showed her affection for him was by not hushing him up. It was by not silencing him. And so we see here too with the Mishkan. We go through so much detail. We go through Truma, and then it's paralleled in Vayakel, and we see Tetzaveh, and then we see it paralleled in Pekudei. And yet the Torah just allows it to go through. God just can't get enough of it. It's like, look at the Jewish people. They're unified around the Mishkan. They're all building something in order to connect to me. And that's where the beauty in this week's parasha lies. And the Gra even says this. So he says that the Shekhinah is close to Bnei Yisrael when we are unified. The Gra says in Shir HaShirim, the Shekhinah resides among Bnei Yisrael when we are unified for the right thing, like building the Mishkan. After all, the pasuk says, "V'asud li mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham," that God will dwell in them. That is to say, us, the Jewish people. It doesn't say He'll dwell in the Mishkan. Rather, He'll dwell in us, and that's the lesson. And something that's extra beautiful is the fact that there were loops around the Mishkan in order to keep the staves inside, which is how we picked up the Mishkan. And truth is, those staves had to stay in those rings at all times, because the Mishkan should be ready to be carried around everywhere, at all times, at a moment's notice. And Rabbi Jonathan Sachs mentions in Covenant and Conversation that connotes that we always, and I'm sure there are other Mefarshim who say the same, that we always need to be ready to move the Torah, because wherever we go, the Torah comes with us, the Mishkan comes with us, that connection to God always accompanies us. And then, says Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, that demonstrates one of the unique points of Judaism. That is to say, where is a religious Jew religious? The answer to that is everywhere. What kind of question is that? Of course you're religious everywhere. This isn't something that you keep at home and then once you leave your house, you just leave it at the door. That's not the way this works. We carry around with us our relationship to God always. And this is actually reflected in Shabbat. It's a revolutionary idea. Jews don't even think about it really. But when we read Breshit and it says that God sanctified Shabbat, the seventh day is sanctified. Well, where is it sanctified? In Israel? No, everywhere. If you were to ask someone, what's Shabbat? People will be like, on Saturday. Even though whatever, like, such is a nice term and easy point of reference. And it gets a little complicated when we get into the Far East, like China and Japan, but we won't go there. But the point is, you talk about Shabbat, who keeps Shabbat? Jews keep Shabbat. That's the way it works. So what if you're not in Israel? Well, it doesn't matter. Wherever your Shabbat is, that's where you keep it. And the reason why that seems like, okay, fine, well, what's the chiddush there? If you were to ask, My sister once told me a funny story of this American who asked a British person or some European, like, hey, do you celebrate Thanksgiving where you're from? That's a ridiculous question. Of course they don't celebrate Thanksgiving where they're from. That's not a holiday for them, right? It's nothing. It's something that you celebrate in the United States. Even Canadian Thanksgiving is different than American Thanksgiving. So you see, like, where you are, that's what determines what your holidays are. Okay, fine. If you're in the United States, then Thanksgiving is on X day. If you're in Canada, then it's on a different day. If you're in England, then you have different holidays. And the point is, wherever you are, that determines what kind of holidays you celebrate. That's not true with Judaism. Shabbat, the seventh day is sanctified. For who? For all Jews. Wherever you are, it makes a difference. So too we see with the Mishkan. Mishkan is meant to be portable. It's meant to be brought everywhere. And in that way, we're meant to see that our connection to God is portable. It's everywhere. And that's what we end Sefer Shemot with. We'll see you next week. Shabbat Shalom.